Welcome to the Calibre podcast. My name is Jacob Satiris, the Digital Director at Calibre Group Solutions. And today, I'm quite excited about this one. I'm joined by a man who knows our industry extremely well, has a thriving automotive business, and I think it's fair to say knows his way around social media pretty well. A big welcome to Jim Reid. Thank you for joining me, Jim.
Thank you very much for having me on board. And it's been a long time coming, I believe. So there we go.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it does feel like a long time coming. I do have to put a disclaimer. Please excuse my lockdown hair.
One of the benefits I've got from being completely bald. So
how are you and the family? Are you all right?
We're all good, thanks very much. Yeah, I mean, it's just such a shame, obviously, with the whole lockdown thing that we're not seeing with grandkids. But grandkids, obviously, very, very important to us. I mean, Aria's 3.5 and Murray's 6 months old, so it's a bit tough. It's a bit tough. I mean, even though you see them in Zoom and conference call and whatever, it's tough not getting a little cuddles, So, but it's the way it is.
It's not the same, is it? We've had that with the Zoom calls. The kids always want to see their grandparents, and you're just trying to explain it to them that they can't at the minute. This is what it's going to be, but
difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, from the outside, from a business capacity, it certainly looks like you're adapting to the situation fairly well. Have you? How have you found things business-wise of late? Kind of adapting.
Yeah, so we've obviously got embarked to some kind of sorts with the after sales side of things. The service side is now open from last Monday. Now it's got its challenges, obviously, with a skeleton staff, but it's amazing how efficient you become even with a smaller amount of staff. What we've done for our customers, because obviously they're in lockdown and it can be seen as a non-essential drive to here, where we'd obviously normally give them a loan car, we're actually taking the loan cars to them, and we're locking them up, and then picking the cars up, taking them back, and then disinfecting and sanitizing them before we get them back. So full service, and yeah, it's going really, really well. Sales up in Scotland, obviously we're still in lockdown for another 3 weeks, so we're not allowed to open the doors as yet. However, we're picking away with 1 or 2 sales online and on the phone and things like that as well, and they're purely done remotely. All done with invoicing PCs and finance online and delivered to the door as well. So we're doing a bit of business.
Oh, good. I knew you'd adapt well. I saw the video of how you do everything and with dropping the car off, and it's brilliant. It looks like it's the best way forward and how it should work. Yeah,
I mean. Yes, I mean, it's got to be done, and the great thing about video, is, you've seen that from quite a bit of distance, and the great thing with video is it explains it without you saying anything at all. It's fantastic, what 1,000 words would take to explain what you actually do, and it just explains it without any words getting spoken, which is brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. I think that's what dealerships are going to need to going forward. Realise that it's bringing this. We're going to touch on it later, but bringing that kind of confidence through and showing that you are still functioning, that you can still bring the services, but trying to explain that in a letter isn't quite the same as just showing people physically with a video.
Absolutely, indeed.
With this episode of the podcast with you, I want to bring. I know it's going to bring a lot of value. So we're going to dive into automotive kind of business chat, how to use social media. I think we're going to definitely pick your brains on that because a lot of people can learn a lot. Using video to drive business and kind of stay relevant. And then at the very end, we like to do a bit of a quick fire. So a bit of a personal side to Jim, if we can. So that'll be fun. But for those watching and listening, Jim and myself have been in contact quite a few times actually over the last year or so, just around kind of our shared enthusiasm for social media and digital in this automotive space. So I know it's going to be a good old podcast, that's for sure.
That's the way.
If I could, Jim, though, I've been doing a little bit of digging, and I'd like to address a few accolades that I didn't know before that you have. Both on sales and customer service. I've got a little list here.
All right, okay.
Finalist of the Motor Trader Awards for Sales Team of the Year. Finalist Motor Trader Awards Customer Care Award. Car Dealer Magazine Best Used Car Customer Care. Winner of the Car Dealer Magazine Dealership of the Year for 50 to 100 cars 3 years in a row. I mean, Dealer of the Year award. That's some awards.
Yeah.
You must be pretty proud of them.
Yeah, we're quite proud of that. Yeah. We've got a little trophy. We've got a little trophy display, and we've got and it's actually in the customer toilet. Believe it or not, we've got this great big, framed pictures of us all down at the awards and things like that as well. So we're on. When you're on the throne, you can see us on the throne.
I love it. I feel like over the years coming, you're gonna need to either make a bigger toilet or a bigger cabinet or something like that. So there's gonna be more coming.
Indeed, absolutely.
What do you think the kind of secret formula is for you? Because as an independent, you're extremely well established, but also admired in our sector.
So, I mean, the magic ingredient, I think personally, is just it's your own personal makeup. I think, Jacob, it's finding like-minded people to work along with you. Because that's the journey. You've got to get the foundations correct for your business. It's all about the basics, and the basics then go on to. You can then build in the basics. That's basically what it's exactly the same as the foundations in a house. And I know that's obviously something that's been used hundreds of times when it's discussed about business. But going further back for me, I was born and brought up on a farm, one of six of a family. So and I'm second youngest. So that does, you've got to fight for your food, if you know what I mean. So it does give you a bit of resilience, a bit of persistence, and a bit of hunger as well, and a bit hard working. And when I was growing up, the decision obviously was made where it was myself and the sons of the family normally take over the farming business. Now in this case, myself and my brother were offered the business when I was only 15, so just when I was up to leaving school, and we decided against it. It looked far too much hard work, so I went into the motor trade instead. Yeah. So for unsociable hours, of course, that was what it was all for. But I think that kind of background with that kind of hard working, thoughts. Also, the great thing, I had a fantastic grounding with the motor industry as well. I started with as a YTS partsman, so that was a very early apprenticeship with a big Ford company in Aberdeen called Harbour Motor Company, and spent 2.5 years. It was a fantastic job. I loved it, and.
Oh, we've lost you. Oh, no. I
don't know what's happening there.
Lost you again, just like it cut out.
Hang on, I mean, I can see because the buttons actually come on. I can see actually the mute buttons coming on.
How weird. We have to jump in. You may notice if you're watching this that Jim has suddenly lost some wires from his ears. We kept having a few difficulties with the sound, so Jim has now removed said earphones. And it seems to be working fine. So hopefully it will keep going and it will be fine. Following on from what you just said, it sounds like you're a bit of a glutton for punishment. I mean, moving from farming to automotive. Indeed,
absolutely. I mean, it's two the hardest working industries, to be quite honest with you. But farming gives you a fantastic, grounding. It gives you a grounding. You can understand as well, if you've ever dealt with farmers and when you've been selling cars as well, Jacob, you'll know how hard they are, how tough, taskmasters. Every penny is an absolute prisoner when it comes to a farmer because they work so hard to make it. And I think that gives you a grounding, because I saw that obviously with my dad. My dad didn't want to spend any money when it came to buying anything for the farm. So of course these sales representatives come in, it was just like, oh my goodness, it was like the toughest job in the world trying to sell anything to my dad, So but yeah, so that's me, farming background, them in the motor industry, and had a great grounding with Harbour Motor Company, which is obviously Ford. It was a Ford based company at the time, bought over eventually by Arnold Clark, which most people are up in this direction. And then moved on to Lawrence & Kemney. Now, Lawrence & Kemney were a big Vauxhall dealer at the time, massive Vauxhall dealer, one of the biggest. They had huge amounts of accolades at the time as well, family owned and run business. A brilliant place to work. Come through apprenticeship through the parts side of things, and then was invited along to the sales for one weekend, purely because some of the guys were retiring along with Mr. Lawrence himself, the older guys, the sales guys, and I was invited along. Would you fancy hitting a wee shot at sales to see how you get on? Sold 3 cars my first weekend, and I thought, this is for me. So I've never turned back. That was the sales side of things, and it become salesman there, sales manager eventually, and then started up our own business in 2003. Yeah.
Amazing. And Jim Reid Vehicle Sales is quite a family affair, isn't it? I know I've spoken to the son-in-law Phil on numerous occasions online. Do you think that kind of family element has helped the business stay so grounded and so personal?
Hugely. Absolutely. Because I mean, again, it's like, it's an extension to our family. I mean, that's the reality of it. And everybody's got a responsibility. And, the great thing about it is, people don't lie to each other. People don't steal, and these are the things when you get to a certain size, that's the difficulty you've got with some of the bigger companies is, people start lying to each other, stealing, not doing what they've actually say they're going to do, and so on and so forth. So it's keeping it as a family type of thing. Yes, there's fallouts like any family disputes. There's always going to be that. But the main reason is we're all going the same direction, and I think that's everybody sees the bigger picture of it. I think, Jacob.
Yeah, everyone's kind of feels like they're really in it together rather than you're just a part of someone else's function. You're actually in this together, so it benefits you to be honest and have that integrity.
And I think driving it from the front as well, and making sure that they're not just a number. People. They're the most important people. After customers, at the end of the day, you've got to look after your staff. 100%, you've got to look after your staff, and you've got to listen to them. You've got to make sure that they're actually looked after personally. They should never worry about money, and you should never worry about coming into work. You should never feel that hate for coming into work, which obviously happens at a lot of places. So, but yeah, I mean that's how we roll, and it seems to work. So if that's a magic formula, that's a magic formula.
Good foundations and bring in some family. There you go.
Yes, indeed.
One thing, and I know a lot of this episode is going to be focused around it, that you've absolutely nailed, if I can say so, is social media. In fact, it was just today or last night, but I spotted it today about a post with staff temperatures, and given the current situation, turning that kind of quite a serious situation into actually making some fun, engaging guess who's the coolest engagement game for the customers, which that's a genius. Whoever came up with that, that's fantastic. Yeah, there's your answer.
There's your answer.
I mean, you have a little under 11,500 very engaged followers on Facebook, that's very big, especially for an independent in automotive. That's big regardless. Which I see engaging, personal, informative posts coming out all the time, but also you do post a lot of acts of kind of your selflessness, which I remember, I think it was last year around the snowstorm, if I remember rightly, you put a post out which was giving away free ice scrapers to anyone that needed them. And I just think that's so many dealers can learn from that, because that small act of kindness from you actually must have been so impactful for the community around you and people's thoughts towards you. So do you think that kind of level of caring towards others has helped you grow the business to where it is?
Yeah, I think so. I think the magic in that as well, Jacob, is never do we post something thinking we're posting it to brag about it. We'll always post it with the expectation of nothing in return. We'll always do things with the expectation of nothing in return. And I know a lot of people say that, and I know that's in your podcast, and we've all listened to the podcasts, Jacob. But the reality is, that's what we do. That's the type of people we are. I would struggle to drive past somebody who had a puncture in their car at the side of the road, even though I didn't know them. And especially if they're struggling, because it's, but I think that's inbuilt into you. I think, that scenario where it's been used 100 times, the person in front of me, the old woman, she forgot her purse, she didn't have enough money, we'll give her a tenner. I would do that all day long. I'd be broke, Jake, because I'm so soft, it's unbelievable, and that's just the makeup of me. I mean, I think that's sometimes a fault of mine, and I think sometimes that can be taken advantage of. Some staff members in the past have taken advantage of that, and they're no longer with us. Some customers take advantage of that as well, unfortunately, but they're no longer customers. Yeah. So I think it's just your makeup, Jacob. I think, and it's nice to see, or nice to hear, that it actually comes through like that as well, because that's very important, because we think that we are doing it right here. And, you know, the ethos within the company is exactly the same, because you teach what you preach. Yeah. So, you know, your Phil's exactly the same, and Phil's for a Christian background, so that's ideal, because at the end of the day, you know, his mum and dad are very much involved with the church. You know, and that is a fantastic ground for that type of thought process, you know. So, yeah, we've got to make money, you know. I mean, you know, we can't do everything for nothing, but we do try our best to accommodate people when in need, you know. So,
and I think it comes across. It's easy to see when you're speaking to you that it very much comes across as genuine. There's places, like you said, that you can see people are just doing it with an ulterior motive. You can tell with your posts, with your content that you put out, and how you come across, that it is genuine. There's no ulterior motive behind anything you're doing. It's just, I am here to try and help, and it comes across exactly like that. So.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's difficult sometimes. I remember, and this is, please don't think this is me bragging at all, but I mean, you know, last year there was a post come through the local newspaper email, or come on Facebook, and my wife Gail, she phoned me, or she sent me through WhatsApp and said, Jim, can you help this guy? And I read the post. It was in the local Evening Express newspaper. And believe it or not, this guy had terminal cancer, okay? Completely unbelievable. He'd saved for a holiday, which was, by the looks of things, which was going to be one of his last holidays with his family. Didn't obviously have a lot of money, and it was just driving to, you know, from A to B for like a weekend away, you know, not that far away, and it was a caravan, or, you know, it wasn't something plush, hugely plush. And believe it or not, his car was stolen. You know, his car was stolen, and his little motorbike thing was stolen as well, you know, which was what he was trying to do up to get a bit more money in as well. And you think, what a shame, you know, it was just heartbreaking to watch. Now, my natural reaction, and Gail's natural reaction as well, was, Jim, how can you help this guy? And I said, well, I know exactly how to help this guy. You know, I've got a Vauxhall insignia in my park. It has got 0 road tax. I'll go and fuel it just now, and I just got in contact with the guy. Well, I had to get in contact with the paper to say, how do I get in contact with the guy? You know, I'll loan him a car for a whole week, and he can go on his holidays. You know, and because I had to contact the paper, obviously the paper want to make a story of it, don't they? So yeah. I said, look, you know, when I hand over the car, what time are you going to be there? Well, I said, we'll be there between this time and this time. It just so happens the photographer's there. I said, look, it's not about me, it's about Stuart, you know, and about him getting the car. So listen, photograph of him in the car, absolutely fine. You can mention me, absolutely fine. Please don't take a picture. And then they stole a picture off my website. You know, and you know, I didn't want that, but I mean, again, that type of thing went, you know, huge in social media, because it is, you know, it's that kind of selfless acts it does do. But we don't do it for the social media. We do it anyway. You know, if social media didn't exist, you know, it's going back. It's going back to that good old saying, isn't it? You know, when a tree falls down in the forest, does it make a noise? You know? Yeah. You know, you do it when you do the right thing when people aren't looking, and that's just what we are. So
yeah, and that small act from you, the impact, as much as people cotton onto it, but if they hadn't, the impact that I would have had in such, like you say, it's such a small act of something you can do, but the impact on that person would have been huge.
Absolutely. You know, and to give you an idea, Jay, you know, and honestly, I was in tears. Honestly, I drove away in tears. When I picked up the car, I drove away in tears, because this gentleman had actually made, because he made stuff out of old wood, he'd actually made me a seat for my house. He'd made me a seat. Honestly, absolutely phenomenal. He'd obviously made it anyway, but he gifted it to me. You know, and it had you know, our house is called Deer Park, and he had a deer's head on it. You know, it just, I mean, you just think to yourself, wow. You know, and that's, you know, and I was doing him the good deed. You know, it was, you know, I was trying to do that for him, and he was doing something for me. Just unbelievable, isn't it?
It's amazing, isn't it?
I know, it is indeed.
Well, from that to social media, I'm a strong believer in sales. One, that we should bring ourselves to where the people are, So customers, where their attention is, rather than, I know we see it a lot of the time, especially in sales, that we're trying maybe to drag the customers to where we want them to be, rather than where they are and where their attention is. And that's why, and I think you'd probably agree, why we're such keen advocates on social media and fully embracing that as dealerships, because we know customers' eyeballs are there. When they're relaxing and their downtime, their eyeballs are there. Usually during the day at work, a lot of the time, their eyeballs are still there. So it's a good place to just be relevant and around them. So with social media being probably more a key component moving forward than ever, how do you see for your business and other businesses that social media playing its part in this kind of automotive as we move forward?
It's very, social media is very simple. People make it, we all make it hard work to understand. It's really, really simple. It's basically a community. That's what it basically is. It's where everybody hangs out. If you turn the clock back, say 50 or 60 years or even longer, where did people hang out? Well, they hung out at the weekends at parks. Facebook is a park. And guess what? You can actually section it off into people you like and people you don't like. That's a great thing about it. So that's the basics of it. And if you can think of it as like that, you've also got to be careful with social media, not to brag, not to be too salesy, because if you think of it being and we've all been at a party, Jacob, and you've been at a party, and there's always one guy in the corner giving it all this, yeah, and bragging about this, bragging about. Everybody avoids him. Nobody says it to his face, but everybody avoids him because nobody wants to speak to him, and that's what happens in social media as well. Everybody avoids that, bragging type posts. So just keep away from it completely.
And if there's not that person at the party, then it's probably you.
but you know what I'm at. It is very, very simple. What social media is, and dealerships I think should actually use it more like a database, because once you get to the point where you've actually got that amount of people, it's you're feeding adverts, you're feeding the best deals and the special deals to the public that have supported you over the years. Your customers are there, and some of your customers' friends who've never dealt with you before, and you've got an ideal way to show them what you're all about. It's a fantastic platform for advertising, and I can't believe it that some dealerships still just don't get it.
You see it all the time. I've been looking at dealerships that just haven't touched it, and you think you've got the perfect product, the perfect environment just to be sharing your experience. And as you say, it's a real effect of you can network out for free.
Yes.
Just one person's recommendation goes such a long way. I'm on a very different level. I had a post from a friend that I knew from school yesterday that recommended a Netflix series. Just from the back of that, I thought, do you know what? I might check that out. Just because of his recommendation. I thought it meant nothing, but actually I'm now probably going to check out that series. And you think all it needs to do is one person that's really loyal to you and engaged in your content, share something that you do or comment on something, and their friends will see it. And the influence that can have is huge.
Yeah. But I mean, it's no different from meeting that friend at Tesco, or, they bumped into him and said, how you doing? And, you'd start speaking about, and I was watching that on Netflix. You remember, and you go back and, it's exactly the same, but you've seen it on a post. It's exactly the same. And that's what I don't understand, why a lot of businesses just don't get, Facebook, don't get social media in general, and it's about being honest and putting across your real self. It's about being your real self on there, because you've got to get the tone correctly. You've got to get the voice correct. It's a correct volume of voice, it's a correct tone of voice, and it's a continuation of, it's saying the same thing continually, which obviously, it's got to be like that. It's very simple in my mind. It's very simple.
You make it look very easy. So that brings to an end the first part of our interview podcast with Jim Reid. We're getting loads of value already. Make sure you tune in for part 2, and we will catch you very soon.
Apologies.
Right. I'm going to take us. You got the right idea, except for my cup is far less manly than yours. Mine is.
Mine's a personalised Starbucks cup.
Oh, look at that.
Glad you used that.
That's cool.
My fault, I'll do that for myself.